All right, now we're on the record.
Okay.
Sometimes I forget, and I hope I don't completely forget. Then we got, there must be Manohar.
Yeah, that's me. Hi, Kathleen. Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, Andrew.
Hello.
Manohar, you may want to change your Zoom to, is that your telephone number on the Zoom?
Yeah, this is more my my Vonage number. Yeah.
Okay.
Internet.
Oh, okay. As long as, because I noticed it for some reason now suddenly they are showing our names
Really?
like right in the recording when you're on YouTube for the past 2 weeks actually. It'll say John Richards or Kathleen or Sandra or somebody down in the lower corner. And for Manohar, it actually says his phone number across there. So I just wanted to let you know.
That's a change.
To make a mention of that. Yeah, it just happened in the last. As a matter of fact, it happened the evening when I said it never shows your name.
Oh, yeah.
And then right after that, it started showing. I was like, wow, that's okay.
Maybe they took that as a request.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just like, because it never did before. And then I posted the YouTube video and it pops up with all our names. And it used to just be like a blank screen with a phone, but now it'll show your name, your phone, everything. Now, if your name is on the account, it just shows the name.
Right.
But if like Manohar's, whatever that number is showing across, and there are like 100 some odd people looking at this thing. So I didn't know, like if it was his home phone and it's ringing off the hook. You know?
Oh, because I'm mobile there, John. So what I did was I purchased a voice over IP kind of a thing. It's called ObiHi. So I just plugged to my Google Voice Gmail account, and then until Google bans it, it works.
Okay,
I need it.
Good. I just didn't want you to be, receiving phone calls all hours of the day and night, and you put your phone number out for the world, and it's probably not good.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll be commuting, right? So November 10th, I'm going back to India. So this time I'm thinking of going for a while.
Sounds good.
The only thing is, your call will be early morning, I think, John. I'll have to wake up.
Yeah. Indeed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are you going to be on the call when you're in India?
Yeah. I'll try, Kathleen. Yes.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, because it's like the 8 o'clock in USA time is early morning Kakadarate, so that's like 5:30 in the morning. So we're at 7 o'clock. That'll be like 4:30 in the morning.
Right.
Roughly, I guess.
4:45, 4:30. Yeah, 6:15 is 4. Yep.
Oh, yeah, you'll have to get up really early in India.
Yes, Kathleen. This is one of the meetings I look very, eager. I don't know what I do, but this is the only thing.
But if you're staying at the ashram or going to the ashram, then the ashram starts opening up at like 5 a.m. anyway for the early morning bhajan, and they're sweeping and putting the flowers. And so I know when I was in India, I used to wake up at like 4 in the morning on a regular basis because I wanted to shower and be ready to go for the early morning bhajan.
Because one of the things is I don't speak Marathi, so I don't understand Marathi. So most of the are in Marathi. So for me,
it's the vibration. I mean, I didn't speak it either, and it really is just, I was so into it. I was clapping, and you feel the energy. You feel the selfless self just roaring through and clapping, and it was really beautiful. I didn't speak any Marathi. I understood only like from the book what they were saying. There was like English translation. But even I didn't try to like participate in that way. A lot of times I would hum. I'd just be sitting there humming, and just humming, and then, clapping, and it just, I don't know, the energy overtook me.
Right. No, that is true, John. Only thing is for me, I just listen to it. and whenever I get a book, probably I'll try to go through it. But the ones who benefit the most are like the ones who understand Marathi. For me, it's like it's silent meditation or silent hearing for me.
Hmm. But again, and still, I'm not trying to debate, but for my own self, and I know Maharaj has said this, the vibration has no language. And it literally, in being around that energy of the ashram and bhajan, it's shaking you out of that body sense. You know, you're not having that body sensation because you're vibrating. And when you're vibrating, you can't really pay attention to the pressure of being a body. It's just, it's a really wonderful experience. And again, even there were people there who were trying to sing along, and I was just like, you know, I'll hum and clap and just feel the presence. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, I saw one devotee, John, going into trance after the bhajan there.
Oh, yeah. Because you lose all body sense. I mean, after like the first couple of times attending bhajan, you lose the body sense. It's really like, that's the early stages and beginning of getting to know your formless nature. And kind of presence is already awoken, so to speak, because in speaking with yourself through the form of Sri Ramakant Maharaj, you're already getting that, you know, you can feel that's coming up. And then with the bhajan, it's hammering, like it's, I don't know, it's like as if it was an earthquake and shaking a statue, and pieces of the statue and everything are falling off because the bhajan is just shaking apart any belief in body without trying to sit there and say, oh, I'm not body and all this. Bhajan is just kind of shaking it without your having to really pay attention to I am not body, because you're feeling and paying attention and getting lost in the vibrations of the bhajan.
It's like a spiritual earthquake.
Yeah. No, that present is like really super, John. Because I used to see the red. I also used to like watch. I mean, that energy is like really something. I know Maharaj was there, everything, but yeah.
Absolutely.
When I saw the
Maharaj was just a very good mirror reflecting your selfless self. That energy is you. It's not Maharaj. Maharaj was just a clear mirror, so there wasn't a lot of mind, ego, intellect, you know, in a barrier like that, because he knew I am the selfless self, so there's no mind, no thoughts, no nothing. And that recognition in the projection is that's my own selfless self. You could feel it more strongly around him, but it's only yourself. It's as if you stood in front of a mirror that had some dirt and some dust, or you stand in front of a mirror that you just purchased from the store with not a speck. It's just the recognition and the projection, and the object of your recognition, which is your own selfless self, and the reflection of that is what you feel, but it's you. Like a lot of times people will say, oh, I feel your presence. And Maharaj himself will say, no, no, no. It's your presence you're feeling. Don't think that I'm some great spiritual master. It's just because I know myself that I am not body, that I can reflect your presence as this. But don't think it's anything other than your own presence. And that's why bhajan, the shaking apart of the body through the vibration of bhajan and the concentrating on your selfless self without trying to have a concentrator concentrating, it's just a natural concentration. It just dissolves body. And you start to, that's when I explained the first time I felt that feeling of expansion, where I was sitting there doing bhajan, and then all of a sudden I just expanded into the whole room, and I was shocked. But later on, it's not that I'm expanding. It's the fact that I'm no longer paying attention to body, so I'm in my true formless state rather than being pressured into a little small body form.
Yeah, I'm like literally aching for that kind of experience, John, but it's elusive.
It's the reality. It's absolutely the reality. And hearing me speaking about it, it's your own selfless self speaking to you, saying that when you're there, that this is the reality, that the Bhajan shakes you into your own selfless self and away from the ideas and beliefs you may be holding. Because you can't hold any ideas and beliefs when the music is playing and you're clapping and all of that. You can't hold the beliefs. At first you might, because you might be self-conscious of looking at people and saying, oh, okay, some people are clapping, some people are not clapping, some people are singing. But when you get lost in the moment of the bhajan, then all self-consciousness goes away. Therefore, there's no longer a pressure of being a body in a world. It's just the flow of the vibration of the bhajan.
I wonder if that's a taste of what it'll be without the body, you know, when the body drops away.
Well, again, you're not in the body right now. There's only the pressure of the idea of the concept that you're holding, that you may be in a body named Kathleen and all this kind of stuff, but it's not the truth.
Right.
And to not be in, like I said, from the perspective, see, it depends on how your experience is the perspective of where you're seeing from. When you're believing that you're a body and then you no longer feel body sensation, you will feel the feeling of expansion because you were coming from an idea and belief in the limited form. But as you see yourself as this expansion, because you're no longer taking this pressure of body, then you realize that that's just the natural state. And the unnatural is then to be compressed and stuck in a body form. You don't like that at all. It's constant. And it's constant reminder of being stuck in the body because the pressure of body knowledge always is impressing from the outside circumstances that you believe you have to react to from the position of being a body in a world. That's why mantra allows you to erase these concepts before they form, so you can believe and start to see. And believe automatically comes because there's a knowingness that arises because you know that I'm using body form and moving about, but I'm not body. And I start to experience myself as the formlessness experiencing body rather than body experiencing the formlessness. And then eventually even that goes because there's no mind, ego, intellect to try and create a time and an experience that you're in.
Whose dog is that?
It's the neighbor's dog.
Oh, okay.
He just realized his selfless self. He's like, oh my God, yes, I am not this dog.
He's singing a bhajan in dog language.
Like the neighbor's child, right?
But that video that I just sent today is extremely powerful, where it talks about how to meditate on I am and the fact that, I mean, it explains the mantra in a way that I would think that every single one of us would want to redouble our efforts at mantra. If we're doing it 20 hours a day, we're going to start doing it 24 hours a day because it tells the secret, and Maharaj says the secret. And this secret was seen in India, that the mantra is running and you get to see your life without mind, ego, intellect pressuring, and the reality comes forward and you're not concentrating on anything except your selfless self, because the selfless self is mind, ego, and intellect is concentrating on doing this mantra. So you're free of them. And Maharaj uses the example of a woman who's cooking and her children are there and she's trying to cook them dinner. But there's 3 children there and they keep bothering and, oh, you know, hello, mom. And so mom gives them toys to play with so they can be occupied while she concentrates on cooking dinner. And then Maharaj says it's the same. Mind, ego, intellect are the 3 children, and you want to concentrate on your selfless self. So you keep them busy with toys so that you're able to cleanly see yourself. It's a very wonderful video.
Oh.
before I looked at the video today, you know, like this week, it really came so clear to me, like, you know, like it's almost an understatement when Maharaj says that your full involvement is necessary. I mean, it just, I mean, it's got to be completely continuous.
Absolutely.
I mean, because he does speak about the, you know, the attachments or the identification with body, mind, and intellect that is so deep. It takes a heck of a lot of concentration, you know, focus to really just wear those down to the point where they become, where they get really reduced, as he says.
Yes. And mantra does that without drawing attention to that mind, ego, intellect. Because just like those children, if you just told those children, shush, I'm fixing dinner, be quiet, it's going to cause more disturbance. But by allowing them to play, just like the mind, ego, intellect, allowing the mind to play with mantra clears the path so that it's just, oh yeah, it invites the attention of the invisible listener. And continuously, you're concentrating on your selfless self without the distraction of mind, ego, intellect, because they're over there doing something else. And as you go through your day and go through your life with mantra through, as I used to talk about mantra through the experience, you go through an experience with no experience, no experiencer, no time, and suddenly it's like, oh, so that I. And then the next thing happens and you again remain with mantra. That's why mantra should be running through all the time in every moment. And when you think you're not touching with mantra, then at that time you just go back and concentrate on mantra. Even right now, as we're sitting here talking and listening and talking and such, mantra. Oh, Sandra was there, but she's gone now? Or it's just...
She's there. She just...
Oh, okay.
You can't see her. You can see just her head.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it looks like I can only look at 5 people at one time on this little screen. And one of them is myself. Well, all of them are myself. But
I think there is something called a gallery mode. If you go to the top of your screen, it has like the little box that looks like a bunch of little dots.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
And you should be able to see everybody.
Yes, I can. And I no longer see just one, because it was like when somebody was talking, it was just them. But now we're all here.
On the top, yeah.
Okay. Good.
That's pretty cool. But you know what you're saying, John, it's like you have to live as though you're dead. That's the way I look at it. I mean,
well, you're just seeing the reality, and it's full of life. It's vibrantly alive. It's not dead. You're vibrantly alive. You're just no longer alive as something. You're just alive as like Maharaj says, the formless energy that's moving all things. You just know this. As a matter of fact, when Maharaj says you're more subtle than space, when you remain with your selfless self, you can kind of objectify space. You can objectify thoughts. And then every object is appearing upon your spontaneous presence. So when these things are coming as objects, as thoughts, as space, as air, as anything, you're more and more and more subtle than whatever you're objectifying. And you know that you're remaining with your selfless self. And all these things are appearing on that spontaneous presence. So you're literally objectifying everything except yourself, which cannot be objectified. And when you see in that way, even space, you're more subtle than space, and you can sense space as an object other than yourself, in which space is appearing.
Would you say that, I guess, more satisfying way of, or true happiness or something like that? Because that seems to be what most people want is, happiness. Or not happiness in the sense of pink bubble, birthday, but more like contentment.
I think Maharaj says it best when he says spiritual intoxication.
Oh.
It is like a river of bliss inside yourself that you do not want to pay attention to anything else other than that river of bliss that's flowing within you.
So
And
and not a denial of life.
no, not at all, because who see, that's only from body-mind perspective.
No.
There can't be a denial. There's no denier. There's no, see, all of this is absolutely illusion. There is no world. There is no us. That's the truth. Now, when you're moving about and, okay, you're a holder of this body, you'll be able to respond without having to worry. What about if I make this decision that affects all this stuff and it ruins my life, so therefore I'm paralyzed, not able to make a decision? But that's nonsense, because you're in an illusory world. Or when you're waiting, like today, for instance, I came off the MARC train, I was sitting there are no bikes available. So I have to sit and wait for a bike. But again, it's an illusory world. So time and all these things are going to be mind-bothering, but just sit, okay, bike comes, okay, now we go. You don't want to take the touch of the illusory world and try and manufacture it as the reality through mind, ego, intellect. Because it's illusion, you're able to fearlessly step forward. Because what's the harm? How is it harm? You fearlessly step forward in every moment because you know that in reality, there's no I, you, he, she, it, nothing. So fear, there's no fear, there's no tension, only tension is created through mind and thought stream and believing in an I am somebody else that's trying to make something happen. That there's expectation. Even in spirituality, there's expectation. If I do this mantra, I should have these experiences. Or this person's having those experiences, why am I not having these experiences? Again, there's expectation because there's an I am somebody else that mind, ego, intellect is identifying with and creating this disturbance. But when you know the world is an illusory world, it absolutely doesn't matter. You're just in the moment. That's why Maharaj says what thoughts to accept, what not thoughts not to accept is up to you. So take a good thought, perform something in the moment, and know that it's absolutely illusion. It's the unborn child that's trying to decide, should he do this or should he do that? And then all this cause and effect and, oh, if I do this, then that'll happen, and do this and that'll happen. No, don't take the touch. Be light. Be normal, be simple, be humble, be always with you. Maharaj says this, and this is the meaning. Just allow things to come and go. Nothing serious. Nothing serious in your life. Doctor says tomorrow you have massive heart condition and you'll be dead in 6 months. Okay, I'm leaving body. No worries. And see, the cool thing is, you see all the time, like in movies, or maybe you've heard somebody who has had this. What do? They live life to the fullest when they know that there's only a limited time frame. Well, you're in a limited time frame. This is a long dream that you'll wake up from. So live to the fullest in every moment without a worry. And see, then you get into the egoistic sense of self saying, I can do whatever I want. No, because you're not going to do whatever you want. How? There's no harm. Who's going to be harming? You're not going to harm your own self. When you know that the world's absolutely illusion, there's no striving and struggling and trying to get ahead. Get ahead of who? It's only you. So relax, take it easy, everything's good. Take it very light. And in every moment, just sit back. When your mind, ego, intellect starts to come, okay, relax with mantra. Concentrate on mantra and not the thought flow that's telling you of what you should be concentrating on. Because mantra is inviting the attention of the invisible listener, which is the only reality in the situation you're currently experiencing.
Yeah, the key seems to be the knowing of that rather than the persuading of yourself with the mind.
Well, but Master is your own selfless self. He came to you, he said, forget about this mind. Mind came along with body, and body's going to leave, but you still are. Had there not been a you to click with the body, there would have been no click with body. So there's a you that clicked with the body, and you say I. After the unclick with the body, so to speak, calling physical death of the body, you won't have an instrument to say I, but you will still very much be there, always. but with no instrument to know yourself. And in the last moment, you'll have a sensory experience of leaving, basically. You're going to sense that you're no longer with body, but that'll be the last sensation. Because as long as you have a body form, you're feeling sensations, you're feeling world and all these things. Even when you know yourself in a real sense as the formlessness, you're still having a sensory from this body. This body is a sensory instrument, but you just know it's not you.
Hmm.
You don't take the touch.
It seems like you might miss it though, because if the mind isn't there to project the dream, then it sounds like it might be boring.
No, but you're considering, again, individual mind.
Yeah.
There's no individual mind. You're right now the consciousness, and the consciousness that's taking the touch is creating the form that you're seeing, and you're believing it to be other. But this is not the case.
Hmm. I guess, yeah, the tendency is to want to know what's going to happen, but you don't, nobody.
No, right now.
Yeah.
Once you invite the attention of the invisible listener, you said the other week, I think it was, the mantra invites the presence. The presence is very, very deep, and when you dive into that, you dive into the reality, and the world disappears.
Yeah.
And just like we said of everything being an object, that sense of presence is an object that you're perceiving because you can perceive it.
It's a subtle object.
Yes. And just this space, you can objectify anything other than your own self. But this presence is a aroma, or it's the smoke from the fire. It's leading back to your own self. You are that. And it clicks with the body, and now you know you're that. And when you unclick, then you don't know you're that, but you're still that. That is always that. That you are. Just like when you wake up in the morning, you had to be there to wake up, to notice that you're waking up. If you weren't there prior to waking up, you could not have the experience of waking up. You couldn't notice that you're waking up. There had to be something that wasn't awake to then create a waking state. There had to be something there that clicked with the body that then had the body experience, that will no longer have a body experience, but will notice that this body is no longer being experienced, but won't worry that I'm gone, because you already know yourself in a real sense and not in the body form. Knowing yourself as the formless, selfless self, you cannot be body. And then that way you can discard all of these things very, very quickly. Like I said, mind can only create thoughts through objects. And if you objectify even space, knowing that all objects are appearing on your spontaneous presence, then none of that is the reality. You are the reality, so you remain with yourself. And yet, you can still play in the form world. It's okay, but don't take the touch. Just as if you woke up in a dream, realizing it was dream, and you can skip and have a good time and do this and do that, but take it very lightly, because it's not reality.
Like the lucid dreaming they talk about.
And like this, yeah, but not knowing. Like, even you don't know yourself. We talked about before, and this is very important too. The mantra allows you to walk that razor's edge of reality that is too thin for a you. You, not being mean to anyone, but you, let's say, is like this fat, yes? And razor's edge of reality is like razor. You can't fit in that razor's edge of reality, so you have to disappear in order to be in the razor's edge of reality. Since you can't be there, then, oh, somebody else popped up. Keith, hello.
Hello. I was out with my
Okay.
mother.
Oh yeah, I like this with all the panels. This is pretty cool. But yeah, the razor's edge of reality is like, there's no knowing, there's no not knowing. There's no knowing that you don't know. You're just here. And that's where the scenes come, because you're not worried about who I am or how I'm being, and you're not, it's just a flow. And that's the reality. When you're not imagining a you, that everything really matters and, you know, you have a life and all this kind of stuff.
So when the you disappears, basically it's just the impersonal functioning. It's like witnessing the whole shebang kind of like happening.
It is literally, the best way to describe it is the scenes. The scenes are passing before you, but it's kind of like channel surfing, basically. If you were to channel surf and go to a certain channel and you watch maybe 5 minutes of something and you're totally involved in that, and then you just change the channel, totally forgetting about that channel. Now you have another show and you're very involved in that, and then whoop, change that. And each one just goes.
Doesn't it help when you realize that there's nothing you can do about this flow? I mean, like there's no such thing as a doer.
It's just
it takes the pressure off of, like there's somebody who can do something, basically, I guess.
Well, you're standing at the riverbank, watching the river flowing, and you may see garbage flowing. You may see nice leaves flowing. Maybe somebody put nice flower arrangement flowing. The flow is flowing. You're observing. Now, you're observing in an active, spontaneous state, and that's why the scenes are coming before you. You can't pick and choose the scenes. Just like when you're driving your car, you can't pick and choose what you're seeing out the side window or out the front window. How many cars you're going to see, what kind of weather there's going to be. All of these things are just happening spontaneously. Now, you can check the weather before you go for a long drive and it says it's going to be sunny, and therefore the expectation is that it'll be sunny. But then it starts to rain. It's just happening. And of course the mind sits there and says, well, that weatherman is a jerk because he said it was going to be sunny and it ruined my day because I shouldn't have been driving. Well, you know what I'm saying? But the reality is it's just happening. And in a dream, it's just happening. In your dream, you might be a rabbit.
So, you know, like even the choices that one's making, they're not really making choices. It's like they're dreaming that they're making the choice. It's just simply happening as the one totality of the dream, basically.
Well, and again, even the idea of a choice is only from an individualistic point of view. Because if you're not taking the touch of I am somebody else, what choice is to be made? Just like Maharaj says, prior to being this, are you making any choices? And after leaving the body, are you making any choices? Same as now. You were formless prior to being this. You'll be formless after leaving the body. And currently, you are formless. You just have the idea and belief that you're in a form, but in reality, you're everywhere, and you happen to have the perception through this one form to see the form world. This is the telescope into the form world. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a seeing like this.
Yeah.
But again, there is no John. When this body drops, the John that never was is no more because it never was. There never was a John. There was an appearance of a body that attached to a consciousness and a stream with a body identification and was told, I am John. But this body is not John. This Maharaj uses all the time the example of the India sky, Russia sky, Chinese sky, American sky. We put the labels on the sky. Sky is sky. Sky doesn't even know Chinese sky, American sky, and all this. It's just sky. You are the formless presence that's been divided into rooms called Andrew, Kathleen, John, Keith, Trish, Sandra, Manohar. But this is not the reality. You can't be divided. Space can't be divided. Sky can't be divided. We're the ones through using words and mind, ego, intellect that have to label all these things. And just like you take a bottle of water and you put it in another, like a bucket, and put some kind of solvent in that dissolves this bottle, the water just returns to its water. The bottle, the empty vessel is no more. It's dissolved, it's burned or buried, and it's done.
And I was noticing that if I think, I I can see the individual perspective still appears, but I realize it's not my perspective anymore.
Well,
And
this will go too. The more presence is investigating the idea of the person, it can't hold. The imaginary person can't hold a candle. If you're inspecting and looking and inquiring at your own self, you won't be able to stand because you're false. You'll see yourself as false. This whole concept of Keith, when Keith is investigating the idea of presence, then there's a pull of presence to look and see, what is this Keith? And when Keith is seen as nothing, then you return to your formlessness. And this is why Bhajan, we were talking about before, it shakes this idea of being a John in a body. Once the invisible listener is, the attention is invited and the presence starts to investigate the idea of a person, the person can't hold up because it's false. Like, what about the person is true? Is this body true? No, because like Maharaj says, you were a child, then a young man, then an older man, and eventually you'll leave the body. Okay, so that can't be you. All the different personalities that you've had, or all the different kind of, which were you the child, or were you the young adult, or were you the older adult? Which one of these was you? All these things are changing, and you that are not changing are able to witness the changes. If any of those changes had been yourself, there wouldn't be any notation of changes because there wouldn't be anything that was noticing the change that was stable behind, a background where all these changes were coming from.
And I was just noticing that if I take too much interest in it in an analytical way, I start getting drawn into it, actually.
Yeah, forget about the mind. It's fun because you can see the mind trying so hard to present ideas and thoughts and let's analyze this, but it's all in form. You've touched your formless nature. You know yourself in a real sense. What can the form, come on, this mind, he basically has to pack it up and go home because he's useless. Everything that the mind says that you should be worried about, this and that, is because it's in form. And you know yourself as formless.
It's not really telling me the truth.
It can't because it only knows the form world. And that's where you catch it, and you catch it by the tail. Because you're formless, you're prior to beingness in that state before the I am somebody else, before mind, ego, intellect came along, before the belief in body, mind came along with the body. So the mind only understands the thing from the perspective of a body. Like we were talking about in the bhajans, when you shake your body away, it feels like expansion because the mind understands itself. I'm in a body form. I have the feeling and experience of expansion, but it doesn't understand that prior to mind, there was no expansion because there was no sense of body. And mind can't do that. That's very nice because you catch it. Like, you can no longer believe your mind. How can mind present anything to you, the formlessness? Mind came along with body, and everything that the mind presents is body and world, worldly activities, which you know you're not. And like Maharaj has said, you are not body, you were not body, you're not going to remain the body. Body is not your identity. Except your selfless self, there is no God, no Brahman, no Atman, no Paramatman, no Master. Nothing is there. Mind wants to present things to you, the nothing. Now, for a time, you believed in the something, and therefore mind could trick you, basically, and provide this, like Maharaj says, pricking from the backside. But when you know yourself in the real sense as the formlessness, mind is coming and presenting these ideas and thoughts in form, about form, which you are not. And ultimately, nothing really is going to matter because nothing actually is. So you do your job, you do your duties, you do the best you can in the moment, and you leave it. Don't take the touch of anything. How? How do you take the touch?
It's weird, but it's not even weird.
That's the reality. It's weird to sit there and say, ooh, John has to worry about such and such. Who's John and who's this worrying? And what is there to worry about? Okay, mind presents ideas of things to worry about, and they're all in form. We talked about before as if the mind was presenting everything in black and white. You know, it's the same. You're catching it, presenting these ideas to you about the color world, and it's presenting ideas in black and white. So, wait a minute, Mr. Mind, I'm seeing color, but you're presenting ideas in black and white. Wait a minute, Mr. Mind, I know myself in a real sense. I'm the formlessness. Using form, body form, okay, but that's not even correct, because the formlessness is just always there, always, forever. You are that. So mind is trying to compartmentalize, is trying to, it can only see from a limited perspective. And once you stop using it, then you'll see. And you can use, again, you can use it like, okay, if you go to the store and it says 3 for $5 or 6 for $9.99, or you have to use your card for 20% off. These are things that you use mind for. But if you have some kind of a meeting with someone tomorrow and mind says, let's go ahead and run what's going to happen. Let's run this scenario through. Well, that's not useful at all. Because how can that be useful?
You might think it's interesting, but it gets old.
Well, it pretends. See, that's why Maharaj says you have to have courage, because the reality is you don't know what's going to happen from one moment to the next. So you rely on a mind that sits there and narrates what's going to happen that never does. And yet you feel a sense of security from this mind that just says, well, you know, tomorrow we're going to do this and this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And then once it's actually occurring, either you forget what the mind said or you're very agitated that it's not happening the way you thought it was going to happen, which is ridiculous. Because it's happening as it's happening, not how you thought it was going to happen. You can't create reality in that way. All of that is in mind. Only here, now, in this moment, what's right in front of you, done with 100%, without using ego, mind, intellect, as Maharaj uses the example, pick up the water, drink the water, put the water back down. That's every action.
I mean, you can, like, if suppose I need to do a wedding ceremony, and so a couple gives me feedback about their relationship, how they met, and the things that they really, the things that really sort of enrich their relationship with each other, how their lives have been, touched and so forth. I need to kind of look at that and, develop like a ceremony for them that kind of, relates to them. Kind of make it personal or personalize it. It's part of a job, basically. It's, not that I have any deep faith in any of it, but it's kind of like, like, just as I said, it's a job. I guess, so that's fine, as long as you don't really care, in a sense. I mean, it's just, you put it together and you put it aside, and that's that. And then, when the day comes to do it, you just do it. And, again, basically, there's no identification with it, no concern with it.
You do your job, you're doing your duties, just like, they talk about Arjuna going off to war and doing battle and fighting. He's doing something, right? In the moment, he's not taking the touch of doership. What you just mentioned is, okay, you're doing your job, you're doing your duties, and that's it. But you're not sitting there and saying, oh, I hope this goes this and this goes that. And, how even you can arrange for different things, but you don't lose yourself. See, who cares about the world and all the activities you're involved in? You could be involved in any of the activities, but you don't lose touch with yourself. You remain with your selfless self. We talked about before how the inward seeing is projecting the outward. You remain with that inward seeing. Remain with your selfless self, knowing that all this world is projected on your spontaneous presence. And then you can do whatever. Well, watch TV and remain with yourself. Go outside, remain with yourself. Walk the dog, remain with yourself. Get into an argument even with someone. Someone's like, rah, 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 with you. And you remain with yourself. That's always. And whenever you could notice that you're not, whenever you notice that you're not with yourself, it's only because you've separated yourself in some way through a conceptual idea of something needing to be done or something that you're taking the touch of. So you just go back, remain with mantra, invite the attention of your own selfless self, and that's it. And that's why mantra through all the activities, what you're talking about right now, 2 people are sitting in front of me and I'm listening to what they're saying and I'm totally involved with them because I'm not thinking about me. I'm not there, so I'm a very good listener.
I had an experience this week, like I heard on one of the videos, I think Maharaj is talking about concentrate on the concentrator. The concentrator is presence and present, or it's I am, but that eventually dissolves or disappears. And that's what happened. It just like, I don't know, everything just went, period. I was concentrating. It just, and then I said, well, who's concentrating anyway? There's just, basically there was just nothing there anymore. So the reason I mentioned that, I guess it's just because that's basically where you end up eventually,
That's
sooner or later.
State. Not end up. That's your natural state.
That's the
All
natural
these
state,
other
yeah.
states are appearing on that state.
Yeah.
Yeah, your natural formless nature, where it's absolute silence, and like in Das Boot, it says there was absolute stillness, absolute nothing. And then something arose as wind or whatever. And that's talking about your mind. You are absolutely nothing. Like you don't have the ability to think or do any of these sort of things. It's you don't even know yourself. So when you're saying that you're returning to that, it's actually that these other things, these layers on your spontaneous presence are being dissolved. Because whenever a situation arises in a tension or a stirring, you know that appeared on your spontaneous presence, but the presence is separate. This is an object appearing on presence. That's why we were talking about in the beginning, when you start to objectify even space, and it's very, very subtle, then you'll see that all of this is appearing on your spontaneous presence. You're the only thing that cannot be objectified, and even presence, as you were mentioning with I am, presence can be objectified as something other than yourself, because you're a formless knowingness that only can know through the instrument of body this sense of presence that you are.
Yeah, that's good. And that natural state is where, like, people like Maharaj live 24/7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without keeping track of the time of 24/7.
Yeah, 24/7, right? Yeah.
Like, okay, early morning bhajan, you wake up, go to early morning bhajan, but it's just points on a clock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, it's time for this. Okay. Time for that. Okay. And that you are when you're not taking the touch of being in a body that creates a form in time. You're just formless. Formlessness there's no pinpoint on the map to say from this point is this. There's nothing. You're formless. So there's no position from which to say these things are occurring to this object, because You don't have the taking of the touch. There's no pressure of body. Because there's not a mind, ego, intellect that's running. Maybe it is, again, we talked about that before. Maybe there are thoughts running. But because you're not identified with a form, there's nothing being picked up. You're just here. And you could wave to the people. Hey, how you doing? But it's like the background is absolute silence. And as Kathleen was saying, absolute silence and that spiritual intoxication of being with your selfless self. And then there's a stirring. Hello. And then it ceases. Just again, like picking up the bottle, drinking, putting back down. Same thing. In all things, except for those things that you take the touch. If you take the touch that I am somebody else in this body and I need to respond in this way or these things might happen, then you're lost in illusion. And then you just mantra. Since I'm believing I'm somebody else anyway, I should be somebody else doing mantra, like Master said.
Oh, this was like a natural flow of conversation, John. It just came out like that. Yeah. I'm going to listen to this talk again after our call.
Mm-hmm.
Good. I see John's looking to his right.
When he said that, I said, oh, I should check this clock.
I was sitting here, he's gonna look to his right a minute. The selfless self told me that you were going to do that, so I said, well, okay, that's it.
Okay.
All righty. Well, thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night. We'll see you.
Bye.